what was like a super low point for you? Maybe I don't want to like, if you don't want to talk about it, we don't talk about it, but like a low point for you. I won't say the lowest, but a low point for you that like, I don't know. Are you still in it, or did you make a shift, or did something occur, or did an energy get involved? Like, I'm just curious about, because we all hit low points, man, and I'm always curious to like know each person's like valley, because it kind of informs like to me like who they are,
trajectory,
yeah,
that kind of stuff. I mean, all right, I'll get personal with you guys. Don't worry, it's not going to get too serious. It's
okay.
fine.
Not sad. Not sad.
It is going to be sad.
No, don't do this.
Yeah, right, then I'm not.
no.
I'm not going to do it.
I'm linking it, please.
No, I mean, low points. That's a really good question. A couple years ago, I lost somebody very close to me. The girl I had been dating romantically, who I'd known my entire life, essentially.
Come on.
Love of my life. And it's interesting. You know, just a little backstory. Like I said, we knew each other our entire lives. Our parents knew each other. We grew up, went to like Sunday school, I guess, together, middle school, high school together. You know, she has had a twin sister, so I knew both of them very well. And as all things happen, you go through high school and all this kind of stuff. And, you know, obviously life happens. You get out of that. You go to college, you know, live your life. We all, you know, I went on tour, did my thing. She did her thing. And it's interesting how, like, out of the blue, the world life just kind of brings you into anyone, back with someone, or you know, brings people from your past, and all of a sudden it's like meeting somebody for the first time. And that's exactly what had happened. Like, not looking for anything. And this is why it's like, you know, there's never a search for anything. You know, it goes back to that saying that I love, that I tell you all the time. It's like, what is meant for us can never leave us, and what's not could never stay. You know, so it's a bit, essentially, I take from that is that everything that's meant to happen that's for you in this life, experience-wise, it's waiting for you to just show up for it. You know what I mean? So it's a really cool thing. Anyway, I digress. So like years later, like I would say right before the big 2020 year, I guess you could say, like I think it was the end of that. Yeah. End of that year? No. End of 2019 into 2020. I think that's what it was. So just reconnecting out of the blue, like always been friendly, always like hung out. I always thought she was like, you know, awesome. We always were like friends growing up, but for whatever reason, you know, it's lost on you when you're like in that microcosm of like high school or something like that, where it's like, who are these people, you know, not knowing that some of them are going to be really important down the road, you know? And you don't think about it at the time, right? Because it's this microcosm, and it's like you're thinking about the world being so big and waiting to get out there to meet the real people. And it's interesting. Anyway, I digress again. But like we reconnected out of nowhere, out of the blue. And it was just like, well, this is what's going on in my life. Oh, this is what's going on in my life. All right, well, what are you doing tomorrow? Well, actually, I've had off of work. All right, good. Well, pick me up at this time. Let's go grab coffee. I'll show you my life. You show me yours. And it was like out of nowhere, no prerequisite stuff. And it was like the most beautiful thing because it was reconnecting. It's like meeting the person for the first time. And it was beautiful. And it was like, it just all of a sudden went from this instance of just kind of getting together, like friendly. And it, like almost instantly, I think for both of us, it was very like, holy shit. Like, where the hell did this come from? It was beautiful. And yeah, so I mean, a couple years go by, health complications later and so on. And, you know, she had ended up, you know, very sadly passing away. You know, pretty, how would you say, unexpectedly too. And as you can imagine, that was pretty tough, to say the least. And, you know, certainly I would say, I mean, obviously you don't know what's going to happen in life, whatever the case, but it's, as you know, you have your wife. And Mike, do you have a wife or a significant other of any kind? You got everything. It's good. Not nothing. You got me. You got Dave. He's really handsome today. But, you know, within the instance, and I'm sure regardless, you've had experiences. We all have. You know what I mean? Where all of a sudden there's somebody who you meet and come across and it's just like they just feel like home. You know? Like there's, you know, and as you know, you guys know me. I'm an odd guy. Not like bad weird, but strange. We have our strange ways. All of us, divine madness, all of us are creatives are weird. So it's one of those things you go around, like half my life I thought I was an alien. It's like I'm very strange, very different from most people, whatever case. Never really feel belonging. And I think that's just an artist's way of being, thinking differently, perceiving things differently, so on and so forth. It's the first time where it's like, holy crap, like this person just knows me. Just, there's no, how would you say, like there's no like prerequisite kind of explanation or any kind of thing. It's just, there's an understanding, there's an acceptance, there's a love, there's a support, there's no words for it. It's just, yep, makes sense, So, needless to say, the severity of it, she's definitely the love of my life. And it's been a couple years now, obviously. It's been, the end of this year will be 2 years. So it's somewhat recent, somewhat new, somewhat fresh. And yeah, I mean, as anybody who's been in the same situation I am, or anybody who's lost anybody, it's difficult to begin with. But obviously, you're in that place and you start making plans for the future and what it looks like, where it looks like, so you hate to do that, but it's in humanity to do such a thing. You don't want to have expectations. You don't want to, because we don't know what's going to happen 5 minutes from now, but it's always nice to think about it, especially when it's something good. And it definitely, to put it, it's definitely flipped my world upside down a little bit, as it did her family, obviously, and it's like any loss of someone, especially someone young, especially someone, that's always the biggest thing. It's like, how old were they, and it's like, it's not good regardless, I think, depending, it's always hard and saddening regardless of the case, but it is more so in that instance when someone passes with presumably so much more life to live and things to do. And yeah, I mean, it definitely threw me off my game in terms of just myself. It's always, there's so much more to learn after that experience. And I would say that, as all things, you never get over things. You're not supposed to, and I feel like that's always the instance of especially in passings. It's like, oh, give it time and all this stuff. And, and as you know, it's like, yeah, time, absolutely, but it never goes away. It never becomes less than. It stays the same size. I think our experience becomes larger, but it's always the same, and it's always there. And, it certainly has turned me off to the idea of, let's say, like casually dating for the most part, not necessarily even for the instance of, feeling any kind of guilt or feeling of that nature. I thought it was guilt at first. And then I tried going out on a date, like my father being the Italian guy that he is. Like, I'll have my blazer on that you guys make fun of. Whatever. I got to get you guys both blazers, by the way. So like, I'll be wearing that. Oh, where are you going looking so good? Are you going on a date or something? You got a date? Always saying in jest, but always certainly, and innocently enough, even right after, but almost kind of like people around us who care about us the most always want to see us being happy and like, hey, get back on that horse kind of thing. So it was definitely like more of an encouragement thing. But, down the road, I especially always think of it, or at least just getting back together and just kind of perceiving something. And I will say that some time afterwards, I tried. And I sat there at the table. I think they excused themselves, used the restroom, whatever the case. And I was thinking to myself, like, man, just sort of laughing. I was like, it's not that I feel guilty. I just don't want to be anywhere with anyone else. And it's just, that's kind of, the instance and where it is. And obviously it becomes difficult because it's loss, it's loss of that. You miss the person, future plans no longer come, the reevaluation of just self and place. And it was very there's obviously a lot of emotions, like when anybody passes away. There's anger, there's guilt, there's sadness, there's, all of the above. The happy times, the memories you think of which make you sad in turn, and so on and so forth. And, the anger of it is certainly like, what the hell? It's like you go through a whole life, in this instance, at least this was the narrative that I told myself. It's like, whole life knowing this person. And granted, there's a reason why you don't meet people and you had to live your life to be the person and so on and so on, all that kind of stuff. This is my problem. I'm sure it is yours too. Intellectualize things way too much. Can never just be what it is. Anyway, I digress. Whole life knowing this person, go through this whole instance of it, girlfriend prior, and not even with that, just like as a point of reference, was long distance from previous relationship that I was in. And, we still have a great friendship and all that stuff. But, Pittsburgh, like long time or distance away. And here this person lives 6 minutes from me my entire life. It's just like there's the humor of it. Like the universe has a very dark sense of humor. And it is funny if you think about it, the irony in that. And, the love of my life lives 6 minutes from me, not 6 hours. My whole life. And I just never saw it. And it is the irony in that too, where it's like, it's getting to this point and you only have so much time. There was only so much time. And selfishly, I feel cheated, but I think that's natural. Mm-hmm. But it's more so, obviously, for her, having passed with, again, presumably so much time ahead to do all the things that she wanted to do together, but certainly for herself, just to know that and be in support of what's to come, So, needless to say, that definitely threw me off for a little while. And it's something that it's still very much a part of my days, but it's interesting, like when you're kind of living life and it's just, the days just start turning, you know what I mean? As much as you try to, I don't know if you guys have ever felt that, but like if you've lost anyone, I mean, obviously you lose people that are close, but you almost like perceive time, time and distance being the same thing, actually, the same exact thing. But you lose someone, it's like all of a sudden it's like everything just stops for yourself, but it's almost like, player 2 exited the game. That that's it. There's just void. And then from that moment, you try to get back. Pardon me, as I break your microphone. You try to go backwards. Internally, you try to go back. But you actually feel like the earth moving under your feet. And the day just rolling on. Like a slow steamroller. And there's no going back. You feel that distance over time. And yeah, I don't know what I was getting to with that, but that's essentially the expression that you kind of feel. I'm kind of enduring still to this day, that feeling. And then also, with that time being in between that distance, as it were, I don't know if that loss and obviously missing her will be with me for the rest of my life, as it is with everybody, for any kind of loss. But I think that's, how would you say? I think it's become so much a part of myself that it's not in the forefront, but it's always there all the time, in the sense that it has become a part of who I am. Certainly not just the grief of it all, but, her in general, and the experiences and all these things that look about. And as I'm sure you guys can attest to, sometimes it just comes in like waves, sometimes like nostalgia, like, anything of that nature, screw nostalgia, in those moments. And some days are better, some days not so great, but it's just a very different experience. means something different in that regard. So, and I get it. I mean, I'm not the only one. It's interesting. It's like I always, if you consider like people that have been together, older couples that have been together for like 40 years, 50 years, you know, so on and so forth. Like that's what I couldn't imagine. You know, that's something I always think about too. Like it's a long time, you know? So I don't know. It's, yeah, learned a lot from it. And it's interesting, there's still so many things that she's teaching me that she's gone. Not as like a spirit or anything, but, you know, sometimes it's weird. But in terms of like things that were said or things that she had said to me that I didn't really fully hear, it's like there's so many times where I'll just be like, you know, son of a, you know, yeah, I know, babe, you're right. You know, it's like one of the like instances that keep reminding me, and it's almost like so many things that she had taught me, and so many things that have and will inevitably, I'm very keen on believing, you know, make me a better person in a lot of ways for myself and for others. And that's a really beautiful part about it, you know? But yeah, I'm going to stop talking now because I feel like I'm just running on.
Sorry you went through that, dude.
Thanks, man. Such is life.
It's the hardest thing, dude, is that we lose.
Yeah. I told you we were going to get real gothic.
See,
about it.
you
asked
weren't
for
kidding,
sad.
man.
I gave you sad.
It's my biggest fear. It's the hardest thing
Yeah,
that we go through is the fact that we do lose each other at some point.
certainly.
We're all going to go through it. Just, sorry. When do you...
Don't be.
Fuck.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How you put it was... it's perfect. Like, when you find people that feel like home, man. You don't, like, you can't contemplate what it's like to, like, lose that. Especially so early, man. So I can't even imagine, but, like, it's the hardest thing we all go through at some point, man. And it's hard to make sense of that, you know? And I'm sorry that you've had to experience that so, before it could play out to what it could have been. And I know that would eat me up. So, yeah, I was looking at photos. Fuck.
I will say that it's. Thank you.
Yeah.
And
Sorry, dude.
I will say that, no, I'm sorry for being this, you know, bringing this. It's heavy.
It's
There's
like,
that word again. But it is, though. And I don't know. I don't, personally, I mean, regardless of what we all know, what we all think, I know that, you know, this stuff, it's not the end. And it's not.
No, it's not.
There's no such thing.
Can't be.
No. And I think, and if there's any consolation, I've been asked how I know and so confident about it. And it's really the instance that love is the only thing that, how would you say, transverses or what am I trying to say? Like, traverses, that's the word. Thank you. But yeah, traverses time and space.
That's
all
right.
time and space. Yeah. How could my love continue to grow for someone who's
Not here.
not physically here?
That's right.
Every day. It grows as if she were here still.
Yeah.
How does that happen otherwise?
It's a beautiful thing we get to, like, have that in a thing that is finite right here.
Right.
It's a beautiful thing. You get the chance to, like, experience that briefly for a while. Just hold on to it while you got it. Right. Just appreciate what you have while you have it. And It's a beautiful dance while the song is playing, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I'll never, anything that I'll ever say, it's never a justification, right? There's no justification for anything.
No.
There's nothing justifying or making it okay.
No.
Because it's not okay.
No.
Not okay when it happens ever. It really isn't.
That's right.
And that's cool.
Yeah.
It's not okay. We all know that. I think we could all agree with that. Agree on that point. But it's, whether I really don't believe it's a consolidation that we tell ourselves. I think in lieu, and not even to mention any instance of it being something compartmentalized into a belief structure of any kind.
Yeah.
But within the human being and all of us, whatever we decide to call it, or however we express to feel it or not, it's a knowing. It's a universal, inherent, intuitive, not belief, but knowing and knowledge that, like, nah, this is not the reality of things. It's very true. And sure, I mean, we all use it, again, it's a natural instance of obviously feeling guilt, feeling anger. The woulda, shoulda, couldas start coming out. And that is all crap. Because it wouldn't have.
Yeah.
It shouldn't have, and it couldn't have. As far as I'm concerned. It's just, I mean, I'd like to think otherwise, like, not even to sound, again, like, this is just intellectually trying to process something that doesn't even really need an explanation.
Right.
And that's really what it comes down to. But again, non-justifiable. Does it suck? Yeah. Is it awful? Yeah. Is it feeling bad for everyone involved? Certainly. Is it feeling worse and absolutely awful for the absolutely more so above and beyond? Nothing makes it okay.
Oh, dude.
Ever. And it never has been okay throughout all of human history.
Never has been.
Never has been.
That's right.
Never has been okay.
Man, what a blessing, though, it is to get the chance to, like, do it.
Right.
The chance to, like, it's just living presently is the answer there. And I don't know. There is no answer.
No.
You're
100%.
You get the opportunity to act in love, in loving ways with people that come into your life in a some kind of poetic, beautiful tornado, and you get the chance to, like, fully be at home with them for a time that you can't judge. You have no say on when or where or how long or whatever.
No.
But you get that opportunity, man. And that's the part you get to hang your hat on. And the rest is the cost of that dance, man.
Right.
Like, unfortunately.
But fortunately in a lot of ways too. And that's not to say, like, oh, well, that's fine because we'll be okay. You know what I mean? We're going that way too.
We're headed there,
it's just a matter of when, not if. So all to say, there's no sadness about it, at least personally what I've come to understand from the circumstances, that for myself, is that there's no way that I'm going to let that sadness compromise the appreciation and gratitude that I'll have for the time that was spent.
That's right.
That I appreciate above and beyond. Like I said, almost 2 years later, I'm still learning from her. From things she said, things she's done, things she's just her person. And if this is, from an existential standpoint or reincarnate, then whatever you want to think about it, if this is the only instance in the soul's lifetime that we were able to coalesce in a physical form here at this place in this time, in that instance, in that way, something I'll cherish forever. And I'm grateful.
Kudos,
it is beautiful.
That's beautiful.
And it is very poetic in a lot of ways, that instance of
Dude.
it,
I have so much respect for you, man. Like, truly. Not that I didn't before. It's grown multitudes just with you sharing that. So thank you for sharing that.
Thank you for letting me be vulnerable and share it.
100%.
It's rare that I talk about it. So
I appreciate
not saying that to myself, but
No.
it's rare that I have the opportunity and am invited to talk about it. So thank you.
You're more than invited to talk about it. And I feel like I'm learning something, because I struggle with that very much,
With
It's just the loss of
Loss.
people I love the most. And
Absolutely.
I feel like I cling on to the idea of like this is forever, and I can't even venture into the realm of like the reality of the situation sometimes, which I know is inevitably coming. Right. That's just my thing that I'm working on and have been working on. But I can't even go there. So sometimes, to just to vulnerably get a perspective on someone who has been there, and I've attended like grief share groups in the past for like research and stuff, and I just feel so grateful that people are willing to share that experience. So I know it's different for everybody.
It is, absolutely.
And you seem to have, and you said there's good days and bad days, but to share all of it, and to see where you're at today with it, you kind of, in my eyes, it seems like you've worked through it, and you're working through it. You also protect the treasure that was that time with that person. It doesn't take away from, you don't allow emotion to take away from what a treasure that time was and what an experience that was with that person.
And we try not to.
Yeah.
It's a practice like anything else, man. As far as I'm concerned, I don't know shit about anything.
Yeah.
I don't know the answer.
None of us do.
None of us
Especially
do.
with this.
I don't think so. I think there are pleasant words that could be said. There's ways, there are people who have described certain things, and, like our favorite authors, favorite writers, favorite, artists, which is why artists are incredibly valuable, and art and expression is important, because we're all just trying to figure out how to traverse life and how to do it, how to understand it. For some reason we feel like we have to understand it all the time. It's when I try, that's one battle I have with myself all the time. Stop giving everything a name.
I struggle with that too.
Yeah, stop. Why do you have to name it? Why does it have to be a thing? Why do you have to analyze
simply
it?
Life, and you won't understand.
Let it be.
Yeah.
It is. Just look at it.
You can't understand.
Admire it for what it is. Acknowledge it for what it is, and acknowledge what you're feeling. Move on. But it's like in all things, it's a practice. I think it's just. And listen, and basically what I'm trying to say is like, it sounds good. That's what I try to do. But absolutely, emotions win some days.
Yeah.
And some days I'm just angry as shit.
Yeah. Yep.
But that's cool.
There's no right or wrong in that. Yeah,
there's no right or wrong in any of that.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like anger's good.
But I think that's a win in itself. Well, I think that's you could say nice words or not. That's a beautiful thing to remind yourself of, is that you're not judging yourself for what you're feeling, and some may. So I think that lesson could be learned in the experience that you've shared, and where you're at with it.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
I mean, again, thank you guys for letting me share that.
Dude,
I appreciate asking.
Thank you, man.
Thank you for inviting me to be here. And
you're welcome back anytime, bro.
Thanks, bro.